Hi, Florencia, can you hear me? Hello, Florencia, can you hear me? Oh, you're muted. Would you like to unmute your microphone so I can hear you also?
Yes, no, sorry.
How are
Hello.
you? Thank you
I'm
for
fine.
the flexibility today. I didn't realize that I was double booked.
No worries, no worries. All good. I think I manage it.
That's perfect. Where are you? In which time zone are you?
I'm in Munich. I'm in yeah,
So we're the same.
Same time, yes.
Wonderful. So let me chip you in how we usually do it. So we're gonna go for 30 minutes live on Facebook. You're just gonna remain in the same Zoom room, right? You don't have to do anything. I will just go live there. And if you want, you can share it from either my personal profile, all the warriors, directly to your Facebook, so also your friends can watch it live. And the 30 minutes, I will close the Facebook live. And then we have a second small part that I do with everybody that I'm interviewing, which is just 5 minutes of 3 very specific questions. It's almost like a very short version of what we will talk in the longer version. And I use that when I want to introduce people to each other. So I just send like this short, like 5 minutes video. And then we're gonna conclude, and so we're gonna talk everything that has come up between the two of us, and then we're gonna go each one continuing our day practically.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Alles good, yeah.
Wonderful. Let me take a few seconds to go live on Facebook, and then I'll tell you when you're able to see it and share it.
Are you in Zurich?
Yes, I'm in Zurich. It's getting cold here. How is it there?
Well, no, the same. Winter.
I love it because I love to go in the mountains, but
yeah,
it's a night spirit. I'm just looking forward to it. I have to admit, not in the city though, more because of the mountains, obviously. The city is kind of like boring. Oh, okay, it seems to be already in my personal. Let's see, takes a few seconds. Yeah, I can see it in my personal page, and also I'm sharing it now to the warriors, so you can choose wherever you feel more comfortable to share from. Yeah. And whenever you're ready, you just let me know, and we start.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm not gonna go too crazy.
So it's a pleasure to connect today with you, actually, and we're going to take you in the journey of learning a little bit more about who you are and what you're doing and all of that. It was quite of a coincidence that we got reconnected after almost like 2 years or something, right? I think. So I love when circles reopen. But let's take it from the beginning, from a very easy yet a little bit tricky question sometimes. So who is Florencia right now? Who is the person who is in front of me?
I think first of all, I feel like a mother of 2 children in this stage of my life, and I've been living in Germany for 12 years, and I come originally from Spain, but my family comes from Argentina, my parents. So I came to Germany. I studied journalism and multimedia, and I had been, before I got to Germany, working with cultural institutions, with media, with brands, a lot of everything what communication means. And I've always loved digital because, like, I think my first job after the university was in one of the main digital platforms that existed back then in Spain, because we were working with the main telephone provider, so they had a platform. and otherwise it was like, what? So that's how I got into digital. But I am now living between Munich and the south of Spain, and I like the mix of this very rational part of the world and the more Southern European, North African influence. I think it balances out very well. And yeah, I am just trying to help other people as well within the digital, let's say, journey. So as a woman, as also entrepreneur, and I think also through my experience, everything is basically self-taught, because I came with the journalism side. All that I've done with coders or was basically an act of curiosity, no? So like learning, and I think it's amazing. And so yeah, now I am just I started doing projects for my own until people started asking me, hey, can you help me? And then I started helping them with their things. And now I basically started an agency to develop digital products. And then I saw a big need of qualified tech people for the digital world, because there's a lot of underestimation of when you build up a startup and then you say, okay, I have this amazing idea, but I don't have anybody who can code on the team. And then they think, oh yeah, but I want to do this and that. But then if you build up a system or something, then you have to have people running it, you know? So otherwise you don't have anything. You don't have a business, you don't have a machine, you don't have a system that can run by itself. There are many things that are automatized, but many things that have to be taken care of. And so what I do now is I help entrepreneurs to build their digital products and platforms. I think the platform model is where it's going for a few years, but now more and more in the digital space, because even big corporations cannot take the responsibility of creating content, of putting ideas or processes on the space. So it's a good thing that everybody cooperates in the process of creating, and then is when the system is alive, you know. And that's what I think platforms is amazing. I love that.
Next thing.
Well, I mean, I think it's been running for quite a while, but especially now in this circular economy, I think it's just it makes total sense, and it can only grow. You know, I also think is also related with blockchain, with a lot of things that are happening, is because systems and how the digital business are now developing. They have to do with platform, with connecting dots, with data going from one direction to another direction, and it's all together and it's connected. It's not like, oh, I have this thing and it's live and then I'm gone. No. It is a very, I think digital is energy, is alive, is always changing. So yeah, I'm within that world. I try to help people to understand what we do, because I also see a lot of fear of this abstract world. Before people just take a step and say, okay, yeah, I can do this. And without coding knowledge or something, it can be like, oh, can I do this actually? And of course it can, but it's just a question of trust, you know. So
I can really feel like your excitement about coding and the digital world. Where does it, what is behind that? Where does that derive from? What really excites you in that?
I really love I'm very impatient. So this urgency of being able to change things basically in the same moment, or this flexibility of trying new things and see what works and what it doesn't. And I also love from digital that is, you know, if you think about building a business for 40 years ago, I don't know, then you would talk about huge sums of money. And now is much more like a playground. You know, you can try things, you can test stuff. And then what I like about digital is the tweaking. You can always change. I don't think there are many people who think, okay, this is going to be the product that I want to put in the market. And it's going to be after 5 years, the same thing that they thought it was going to be. So it's impossible. And I love this dialogue. I love this dialogue of trying by doing, and I love that. I think it's super exciting, but I can also understand the fear, but for me, it's fun. For me, it's just like when I talk with the coders, like, so let's do this. And then can we do that? Yeah. And then the answer is like, everything is possible.
That's true. It's always from the good coders. That's always the answer. It's true. So which are the biggest fears that you see coming up like into space when somebody's maybe thinking from shifting from more like analog to digital, or going further in the digital also, because there are steps, right?
I think the fear is, can I come to terms with the technology? Or am I, let's say, nerdy enough to jump into this atmosphere? Like, okay, am I going to come along with a computer? Or, from a very basic perspective, it's like, how does this work? If I want to do this, what are the steps? Many people, I think, social media and, all this has facilitated already the communication and the understanding that the basic is there already. How to put content online, how to do things, how to not fear the technology. I think that has helped a lot. But I also think as maybe from younger people, it's not that much of a fear, but from older people, I see, like, for example, on topics like SEO, Google Ads, all the data-driven, or like, stuff like, the digital, I think the digital is like a universe, and then you have like different planets. So every planet is like super specialized on a topic. And then they communicate within each other. So of course, you're not going to know about everything. That's impossible. That is just impossible. But there are certain topics where I'm like, the process of getting people into your platform, understanding what you do, and maybe buying something or just making a purchase of what you propose them to exchange. There is something that creates a lot of, if not restriction, is like, oh, is this too direct? Or am I being too pushy? Or am I just being not pushy enough? Or am I just being too modest? Or this kind of, this kind of fear, am I professional enough to do this? Which is what I assume, and I'm just trying to explain things from a very, very basic understanding of what are the steps. And I mean, we are also testing everything. If it doesn't work, we can always change it. I mean, it's not like a super dramatic thing, like, it's going to be there forever like that. It's not, this is just like, let's put it a prototype, more or less finished. And from here, we're going to tweak it in 6 months, in 3 months. We're going to change the steps, we're going to change the displays, we're going to change the design, we're going to change maybe the ways to approach the points, but they have to understand that it is a living thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel that this kind of thinking has started becoming more and more present, it's not a definite final product as you would have if it was like a material product, right? That you have to create and send it. And I really love actually the title of your personal agency, as far as I understood well, which is like, we are no robots.
Yeah.
And I think that like the fear sometimes comes from this robot, which is like the computer that is in between you and your client. Like, you cannot see the reaction of the client anymore. So you don't know if they're liking it, they're not liking it, like what's happening there, right? And I guess that there we have all the other tools of the SEO and the Google tracking and all of that. How did that title came to you? Why did you chose this title for your personal agency?
Well, actually, it was because it was about 3 years ago when this topic of the bots, like when, all the trolling and all this kind of like, sort of like robots that they send, and everything is so automatized that there is not even people behind all these processes. So they are bots, and they are sort of like robots, like they go in one direction. And first of all, we are persons. and so, and that was like saying, we are not that, and we just do things differently. And, that was like a sort of like a joke game thing, but yeah. And I mean, I was like, yeah, let's do it, because it was like a huge topic. I think it was like a lot with the fake news, and a lot of stuff was coming on with the bots, and we don't work like that. So that was sort of like a statement of saying, even when we work with digital, we are very people driven. And I also, I must say, if I feel I don't have any kind of connection with the person or the project, is not going to work out. I can say that as well. And I'm very clear, and I say, that's fine, but I think you should do it with somebody else. There's plenty of people you can put your money in and put your time and your energy, but that's not me. And that's sometimes better, because at the end of the day, it's like, yes, we are not robots. We have teams. I'm very, very careful with the people I work with, because I think starting a business is like having a baby. So it is a precious thing, you have to handle it with a lot of respect. It's like a lot of illusion, a lot of concern, is a lot of bravery that people put into the table to take big steps. So yeah, if I notice, no, that's not it, then we don't work together. But if I notice, yes, this could be something, well, basically, I develop relationships that has been already going on, I don't know, for 5 years, 7 years, and they're still growing, because it's just the process. It's like growing a business. It's just like helping and solving so many problems, with the founders. There are some people as well, some founders have offered me to be part of the startup, but I'm like, no, that's too much. I prefer to do my thing, and you do your thing, and that's fine. We can, I don't want to confuse too many things, but that's basically how I work as well. Like very, very human attention, like I take time to explain things with the team, with the clients, and then we just work together in the same direction.
Yeah, I really like that. And it's also really beautiful when I keep finding myself, like when I end up in a landing page or in a website, lately the ones that I cannot see the people behind them, somehow from the words that they're using, the colors, like the design, it feels so impersonal that I just close it, because I'm like, probably it's just a template from somewhere with a few words, like there's nobody real behind.
Yeah.
And I feel that we are experiencing this shift between like wanting everything to be super automated, because it was kind of like the new thing, so it was like super shiny and we loved it some years ago, into we actually work with people, and we want to work with people, and we want people who knows us, and all of that part of it. For you personally, being so much in the digital world, how do you balance out your digital presence and your physical presence and your spiritual presence and your family? How do you balance out all of these worlds so it becomes like a supporting ground?
Well, I do a lot of meditation daily. I go to the sauna, and I think the sauna comes, it's just basically the only, or the meditations, they're offline spaces. Because I think it's very important to have these practices of not having all the information through your eyes or your ears, because I receive a lot of information through these offline spaces, which are different. They don't come through my eyes. They just come like maybe messaging, or I'm like, oh, what happened with you? Oh, no. And then something happens, and this kind of breaks. And I love to read in paper. I love to write notebooks with my pen. I think how the train of thought from the brain to the hand through the paper goes, it sticks up much more than digital. And I also love to be at the ocean and the surf or yoga or this kind of stuff, this is for me very freeing. Also going to the mountains and doing snowboarding, but I haven't done it because I have now little kids, and until they are not a bit older, I haven't made it yet. But I think it's very important to have spaces of not being online. Super important. I think it's also important for the creativity. And really, I mean, the kids are also a very good tool of staying grounded because they don't care. They don't want you to be on the phone. They want you to be there and present, and all the rest, it doesn't matter to them. So there's also something that balances out, even if it's exhausting because they demand a lot of attention. It is a good tool to
bring it back into reality.
Yeah, or not just to be working all the time. I think that is super exhausting, and it just I can really deeply recommend meditation for being more productive, and that's also an offline space. But I also think you have to be very like you have to be like with your routines very responsible, you know, like, okay, I have to do this, I do this every day, or I find time. If I cannot make it in the morning because my brain is cleaner, I will do it at night, but I have to do it every day. Yeah, because I also think our brains are not prepared for this whole digital thing we are living. Maybe my kids, yes, more, but you know, I think we are in a very weird in-between space that has to be defined yet. And we have to give the brain the space to come to terms to technology because it goes super fast. This is also a thing. You know, when you already know like a language or something is a new one or is updated, or it's just like it goes way too fast for our brain, I think. So it's important just to get those breaks.
I totally feel, yeah, it's a lot of information. It's a huge amount of information for what our brain was used to. Yeah. Even when we were born was 1/10 maybe of what we have now, and who knows until the end of our lives, like it's just multiplying. So
I think it's too much. I think, and I also take, I am now taking, for example, like a lot of adaptogens, like to balance the hecticness of digital sometimes. So I take a lot of ashwagandha or this kind of herbs that bring that down, or the focus, or they're not like drugs, they are just like herbs. But I notice a very big difference with this regularly, because I think also like with the digital, the social media, the levels of cortisol go really high. So it's important also to balance that out. So I also do that, and it's being is a very good thing. I can also say that also helps to balance these digital friends all the time. So
yes, I can totally imagine. I can even feel my vibration after a whole day in the computer. I can really feel that it's much faster than it would be if I'm not. And it makes a huge difference in everything, your sleep quality, the way that you operate, like somehow you just keep being switched on if you don't have some practices to bring you down. So before we start going towards the closing, there is one thing that I always love to explore. For some reason, there are some very interesting similarities, even in words, between the spiritual world and the technological world, like the networks, the downloads, and all of that. And I would love to hear like your approach into that, because I find it very funny all the time how connected, for some reason, are these two completely different worlds, seemingly completely different worlds.
Yeah, that's a good point, Aliki. I think why I love digital so much is because it's Zen. It's just like, it doesn't exist, and at the same time it's everything. So it's just, it is nothing that you can touch, but you can change the world through technology. And this is the same it's the same, it has the same quality as energy. It has the same quality of the void or something, you know. It's just like, for me, is not a coincidence that meditation is growing so much. It's not a coincidence. And I think is, you go into this space of emptiness, which is how you work with code. And it's like, how do you dive into one thing or into another one, and how do you balance those two out? Because if you take too much of one portion, it's too much for the other one. So I think is what I like about what I'm seeing now is that also a lot of, I'm working now, for example, on a platform which is related with healers and people who is basically doing a lot of yoga, meditation, healing, different things. But it's usually a sphere who hasn't been connected with tech. Now they're all jumping into it because they are also sensing that there's a lot of need to what they do. But it's just like, I think it's energy, and that's how I see tech. Maybe that's why I like it so much, because it changes and it's alive. It has the same quality of materia, which is no materia.
Yeah, like, it's like formless, but it's forming a lot of things at the same time, yes. Right? Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that definitions. Like, it's really beautiful to hear your opinion, because it's a very funny connection that they have. And I do love, like, this is what you're saying, that you're entering a space of information, and according to how you shape it, it will give a different outcome with the code. So as we're going towards closing our live on Facebook, I would like to ask you, you have described it already, but maybe we would like to hear it a bit more specific. What do you feel is that unique gift that Florencia is bringing to the world? Something that's like unique to you.
I am very intuitive, and I can see things, and I can read people very well. And I think that's something I have always have. Already as a younger adult, I could see things, or I could get these messages, right? So out of nothing, like, I don't know, this sounds maybe a bit spooky, but okay, I could see my sister and something was going on, and then she would call and I said, like, are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. No, because I just saw you crying here, and oh my God. So I think this is like a talent I have, and I also use it for my work. When somebody comes to me, I can see what do they have in mind, and in which direction we should take it over, you know? And I can build that dialogue with them. It's like, so, okay. I mean, I'm just talking like very, so somebody comes to me and, oh, I'm trying to do this. And I'm like, okay, so are we talking about Vogue, or are we talking about Biomarket? Are we talking about like, and I just try to see where they want to go so I can help them on the creation and implementation of that. And I think that's my gift. You know, I can sense people very well. And within that, I can put my army in motion and my energy and say, okay, those are the goals, and let's see where it takes us, no?
I feel you. I think we're very similar on that. It's totally like it's the activating of the potential that I feel like that is inside somebody else.
Yeah.
And our last question for tonight is, what kind of support do you need right now to continue thriving or to expand?
Do less.
All of us.
Yes, no, but I'm serious. I think sometimes I forget how important it is to not be so active, you know, just because there is a lot of activity in the not activity. there is a lot of things happening when one say, okay, I have to do this. But then I am kind of, maybe I'm forcing things, you know? And weird enough, that was the conversation I had with a very good friend. And it was like also es gibt Strömung, ne? So like there's this a storm of things happening when you are not, when you kind of say, okay, I give up. So I have done my work, I'm fine, and now I'm just gonna not be active. And funny enough, I was like super worried somehow for the last 2 months for different issues. And then I just said, okay, yeah, that's fine. And things I thought like this, a bit like of not being active of doing so much, but just allowing what is for me to happen. It was just kind of like surprisingly very, on a very metaphysical level, it has been, you know, I was like on this, these are my goals, or these are, and I was like, no. And then suddenly I'm like here, without being active on doing things. And so I think we have to do less sometimes to achieve more. And this is also part of the meditation. Just stop and just come back and just be, and then things can take a different spin. And so that's what I'm trying to do. As well, my life is super busy with 2 little children and my business. And so I have to also be very disciplined with this. Okay, now let's see what happens. No? And so I think that was a good surprise to realize.
Thank you for that, and thank you for this reminder. Actually, I think in this particular moment comes very interestingly enough. I sometimes like to call this state that you're calling, that you are letting go of your control to the bigger controller, which is like the universe, that will allow it to become even better than you could have ever designed it to be. And then you're like, maybe I don't need to control it in the end. Yeah,
but it really is like really surprising, you know, on a positive way, because it's like you're not fighting. You're not fighting. And then the things that show up, they come from people that know you super well, for example, or they come from places of super in tune with who you are. And you don't have to do much, you know, it's just like less effort, but the results are like, holy shit.
Yeah, it just flips into the right place. Yeah, exactly.
And so I think maybe that's just a thing, especially in these times of fear and of this, no, okay, just stop, just let things happen. Do your work, of course, do your work, but don't go crazy. Don't over achieve. You're not a machine. You're not a machine. And there are many things happening without your intervention, but you have to allow them to come. And that was what I was noticing this last week's, like, oh, this is interesting.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for today, Florencia. Before we go, I just want to see if there's anything else that wants to be expressed before we close the live. Is anything else coming up?
I want to express that to anybody thinking about creating a business, just go and do it. Don't waste so much time. You can always find another job or another money here or there. But I think you can grow very fast when you are doing your own thing. And what you think you should share with people, you should give it a shape and give it a try. And I think that, of course, it takes a lot of courage, but especially if there is people who is like doing things I mean, what I try to do with the agency are also projects which have a positive impact on humanity, on the earth, on my well-being, on how I see the world. And of course, we all have to live. Money is important, but it's also good to do with our labor something that has a bigger exchange than just the money.
Yeah.
And that's how I would do it, you know. But go for it. I mean, it's if not now, when? I mean, that's just like when? I mean, I don't know.
Exactly. If not now, when? Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for this comment, and thank you for being with us today. I'm gonna close the Facebook Live. We remain in the same Zoom.
Okay. Thank you, Aliki. Bye-bye.